People with ADHD, what are the things about it that people just don't get? I wish people understood that ADHD doesn't just affect your ability to focus. It really needs to be renamed. ADHD changes your brain chemistry and the way that different parts of the brain communicate with each other, which means that it has a ton of symptoms that affect every part of our daily lives. We have trouble with executive function, which means that no matter how hard we may want to do something, we may not be able to force ourselves to do it. We struggle with motivation because every task is high priority, yet our brains don't reward us for completing them. We have sensory issues because we cannot control which things to pay attention to and which things to block out. Some of us, like me, are not capable of blocking anything out unless we're hyper-focused, in which case I will sometimes literally forget to breathe. We have auditory processing issues, and I couldn't tell you why. As far as I know, it's just to make our lives harder. On the bad days, speech has no meaning, it's just sound. It's like the adults talking in Peanuts cartoons. We want to listen, but it's just noise. We have trouble regulating our emotions. It's different for everyone, but for me, emotions are either unbearably intense or non-existent, and there is no middle ground. There's so much going on for us at any given moment that it's no wonder we can't pay attention. It's exhausting. It's not cute or funny, even though we do enjoy poking fun at ourselves. I don't think it's much of a stretch to say that most of us would give anything to have our brains function normally. Plus the memory issues. It's so frustrating to get up to do a thing and then end up in a loop because I forgot what I was doing in the middle of doing it. So I have to circle back around, trying things to shake loose the memory of what I was doing in the first place. The memory issues combined with the auditory processing issues, plus being embarrassed about the whole thing, means I often miss conversations or key info, or completely forget that conversations happened. Having to ask someone to repeat themselves sucks. Usually they get super upset saying, "I'm disrespectful and obviously don't care if I can't pay attention to what they're saying." I'm sorry my brain decided to scramble the noises coming out of your mouth and then decided to not absorb the info because it wasn't getting a dopamine hit. I'm literally struggling my best to pay attention and make sense of what's going on, and I'm genuinely confused and frustrated with the situation too. It makes school so damn hard because teachers will get pissy and then say you should have been paying attention. Thank goodness my college has accommodations for the auditory issues and lets me record all my lectures. They gave me a Glean account for my online classes so I can record those easily too. Rejection-sensitive dysphoria is a big one. RSD makes us sensitive to criticism and rejection, whether or not it is real or imagined. This colored the majority of my interactions as a teen and made maintaining friendships very difficult. Seeing friends hang out without me, being told I did something wrong, people not responding immediately. It made me very sensitive to the idea of being annoying while simultaneously making me very annoying to interact with. I see so many adults with ADHD and untreated RSD that frequently lash out from a place of insecurity. Working on it will drastically improve your outlook on your social life. Studies have shown that by the age of 12, kids with diagnosed ADHD receive 20,000 times more negative criticisms or comments than their peers from those around them, including parents, other family members, and teachers. Is it any wonder so many of us end up with RSD and imposter syndrome? And that study was carried out on kids who were already diagnosed. So imagine the depth of impact that this level of negativity has on a kid who has no name to give to why they're struggling so much. That kid often ends up feeling broken, like a failure. And it's the reason that many people who are late diagnosed as adults as autistic or with ADHD also end up with long-term chronic mental health issues, such as depression and/or anxiety and CPTSD. For me, it was being the smart kid and having ADHD. Like I sucked big time in school once I started 6th grade, though I did well in an emotionally handicapped class curriculum in 8th grade for some reason, before being thrown back in with the normies in high school. And my parents and teachers were like, "Are you even trying? You're so smart, I don't know why this is hard for you. You think just being smart alone is gonna do it all for you?" Gee, I don't know. Maybe if focusing wasn't such a colossal issue for me, just a thought. And ADHD meds didn't magically make me focus on my schoolwork. My mom found that out the hard way in her 40s when she was put on ADHD meds after being diagnosed late in life. She hyper-focused on doing nothing but playing Animal Crossing on her days. She even had to be reminded to help feed and bathe the dogs, and this woman normally never neglects any pets. Shit. Grooming her dogs is one of her favorite things to do. But yeah, like they acted like I was going around, boasting about my intelligence. I had no idea what exactly they saw or heard from me that made me smart, especially with grades like mine. I guess because I learned to read at 3 and scored high on an IQ test that I took when I was like 5 or something. Now, I was chewing on crayons to see if they had flavors at that age. I don't think a 5-year-old's IQ test results are something to judge them by into their school years. No, guys, you branded me with that label and hung your expectations of me on there by shoving me into gifted and talented programs and AP classes, and then bitched at me for not wanting to do international baccalaureate classes. Still not sure how the fuck my abysmal performance in high school qualified me for IB at all. It was like, maybe the criticisms were well-meaning. We called him smart, he should feel good about that, smart is good. But boy did the application/execution suck. Object permanence. If an object doesn't have a home where it belongs, it ends up in a pile or lost. If I can't see something, I forget it exists. There are a bunch of clothes hanging in my closet that I've forgotten exist because I don't see them. Dressers don't work. I have to fold my clothes and stack them on a shelf where I can see them at a glance. Food often gets tossed to my chickens because I found it at the back of the fridge when it's already past its prime. Grocery shopping once a week is really difficult because I have to plan and shop for a week's worth of meals rather than just a meal or two that are on my mind at the moment. Edit. This started as a list. As someone pointed out below, this is not the definition of object permanence, though some people who have ADHD do struggle with it, myself included. Please don't go to your doctor and tell them you have ADHD just because this resonates with you. There's a lot of things that folks with ADHD deal with that sound super relatable to everyone, and makes them say, haha, oh yeah, I'm like that too. One example I've noticed is that if you've got something you have to go to later in a day, such as a doctor's appointment, it's hard to get anything done before then, and it feels like you're just kind of existing until then. The problem then, and the big problem with having ADHD, is then having to try and explain just how massive an issue it is for someone with ADHD to someone who does not have it in comparison. Like what a massive wall this late appointment is to get literally anything done. It's hard to explain how a minor inconvenience for most is a colossal problem for us. And that's partly because it is just extremely difficult to explain what is happening in your head, especially in a way that makes any rational sense. The best I've heard it put is that it's like trying to knowingly place your hand on a hot stove. I don't know if you're looking for tips, but one thing my psychologist recommended has actually helped me with this. Set a timer for the common things you do. Taking out the trash, going grocery shopping, from the moment you start leaving till the moment all the groceries are put away, going to the gym, the time between starting to leave and actually leaving. Write it down. Hang the list somewhere you can see it. I lost the list a few days later. I will make a new one any day now. Those few days were great though. Turns out time blindness is a big part of the waiting mode problem for me. And if I can see how long something will realistically take and how long I still have, I can actually do it if I have the time. That meds really make a huge difference. I was diagnosed at 36 after 2 graduate degrees and a bar exam. I was so pissed off when I got meds because I suddenly didn't have to spend 40% of my brain power hacking my brain. It's like a computer constantly running Adobe Photoshop or some other massive program in the background. It slows everything down. I could have fucking been president by now with a childhood diagnosis and access to drugs. It's this easy for neurotypicals? You just do the thing? What the f? You constantly have music lyrics firing off in your head over and over all day long. I've had about a dozen words from Go With The Flow from Queens of the Stone Age in my head for about an hour now, for example, and/or random thoughts about anything from any point in your life just start popping up. Last night, a random comment someone said to me like 25 years ago played in my head about a dozen times in a couple-hour period in between 80s music lyrics. If they can't see it, they don't think it's real. Not having an executive function isn't seen as a disability, but as a moral failure. Thus, you are a bad person when you do something hyperactive, impulsive, or emotionally dysregulated. After diagnosis, I made peace with this and stopped beating myself up for all the ruined relationships, stupid things said or done, failures, and time lost to hyper-focus. Sure, I piss people off, I don't mean to, it's not a moral failure, and once medicated, I am seeing the world differently now. Most people who don't have ADHD don't get it. They never will. But that's okay, so long as we can be gentle on ourselves and supported by those who do. Time blindness is crazy. I don't get it on the small level, like hour to hour, but I'll swear up and down we talked to each other a few days ago, and it will have been months. My brain is going a million miles an hour, especially if I'm in an upbeat mood. I can't tell you how many times I've forgotten something as dumb as flushing a toilet just because something broke my routine. I got off the toilet and there was something weird on the floor in the corner, so I looked at it, washed my hands, and headed out. I'm not disgusting, I swear. My brain just breaks sometimes. If I remember to, before I leave, I'll take inventory. I wash my hands, I flush the toilet. Keys, wallet, and phone are still in my pocket. I'll repeat to myself all morning. Take out the trash, take out the trash, take out the trash, put the trash in the bin, and then forget to wheel the bin to the curb. I'm not forgetful. I'm not just not paying attention. My attention is like a laser beam, not a spotlight. I'm hyper-focused on one task at a time. Literally, time stands still and I'll focus everything on that task. I'm also trying my best to prioritize those tasks, knowing I can miss things. Even if it's simple, like I went to the store, there's ice cream. I need to get that ice cream into the freezer before it melts. I also know if I do anything before that, I'll forget. So I'm grabbing those bags first and getting those things in the freezer. Boom, got that done. Yet where the heck did I put my keys? I'm going to throw a positive one out there on behalf of my ADHD sister. I think people don't understand that ADHD can also be an asset in a way, if people become more accepting of neurodiversity. My sister is incredibly intelligent and has pretty severe ADHD. She works in surgery, and the fast-paced environment actually works really well for her. She can channel her bird brain side as well as the super-focused side of her, depending on what's needed. Something about that environment makes it easier to train your brain to switch back and forth between those modes at the appropriate moments. Her son is just over 1, and clearly also is extraordinarily intelligent and has pretty severe ADHD. Because she understands him so well, she's just been focused on creating a supportive environment so that he can thrive as a very intelligent ADHD child. If there were more parents like that, I think the potential of ADHD folks would truly be unlocked. Being told you're so smart, if you just applied yourself, you could do anything, your whole life really kills your self-esteem. When I was a kid in the 80s, my mom refused to medicate me for my ADHD. Her logic? If he could remember the secrets to his Nintendo games, he could remember his times tables. After that, my mom beat me and grounded me for bad grades, and even allowed my stepdad to beat me bloody because of bad grades. All the while, every adult in my life, even the ones that were beating me, were telling me that I could just solve my problems by focusing, applying myself, and getting good grades. I was so smart, and they were so confused as to why I wouldn't just sit down and do my schoolwork, even though a f***ing psychologist told them why when I was in the 3rd grade. I was gaslit my whole life to believe that I would never be able to achieve my dreams at best, or stop being beat at worst, all because I couldn't do my schoolwork. Teachers, friends, family, all told me it was my fault, and I believed them. This carried into my 20s, where I fought my own brain to not end up in jail or in prison. I finally started my Adderall treatment at age 27, and it changed my life. I'm 45 now. It took a couple decades to learn that it wasn't my fault, I was a good kid, and the adults in my life failed me. That it's not that I can't pay attention, it's that I can't regulate attention. The distress at being overstimulated and not being able to calm my nervous system down enough to do something, anything, to get out of decision paralysis. That I don't mean to sound sharp and irritable, I'm just super overstimulated and I feel like I'm being pecked to death by ducks while standing in front of a turbine engine. That I'm really good in emergencies. The calm, quiet clarity I get in a dopamine rush of an emergency means I'm definitely your go-to when things get crazy. That my time blindness has its upsides. If I haven't seen you in 10 years and then I do, everything I felt for you, then I feel again. I never stop loving you. When I think of you, which is really often, but usually in the middle of the night because I never sleep, which is why I don't reach out, I remember every positive, wonderful thing I ever felt for you, and I wish good things for you. Not staying in touch is not indicative of my feelings for you. If I ever loved you, I still do, and I'll always be excited to hear from you. That there are a ton of physical challenges that can come with ADHD, hypermobility, headaches, huge sensitivities to anything from smells to touch to taste, to not having insight into when we're hungry or when we need to stop eating. Our brains just don't communicate with our bodies in the same way at all. Those are just off the top of my head. Probably the impact on how their home is organized. People with ADHD often organize things using piles. They stack important and frequently needed things out in the open. This is because if they put stuff in the piles away, they know they won't be able to find it when they need it. To neurotypical people, their house can look very messy. They may even chastise the person or offer to clean it up for them. But to the ADHD person, this can be extremely harmful. They know what is in their piles and how to access it quickly. If someone moves it or throws it away, it can trigger a lot of trauma around losing things. This also makes it harder for them to complete tasks. A big hurdle for ADHD people taking on tasks is friction. Changing how their things are organized adds a ton of extra mental and emotional work to otherwise easy tasks. They now need to look for the thing and deal with very negative emotions as they do so. Now they've got task paralysis, they're spiraling, dopamine seeking to self-soothe, and the whole day is shot. We should talk about this aspect of life more openly and remove the stigma around it. There are many effective strategies to organize a home around ADHD needs, methods that reduce stress and make life more comfortable for the person living there. They just might not result in someone else's view of tidy, which shouldn't matter at all anyway. How much mental work goes into things that seem simple? When I finally trained myself to put my keys down in the same place. When I came in the house, it took months and months. I had to constantly narrate what I was doing, mentally or verbally, so I could be aware of where my keys were. Things like, I'm turning onto my road and my keys are in the ignition. I'm putting the car and the keys are in the ignition. I'm turning off the car and the keys are in my hand, with more steps up to, I'm unlocking the door and the keys are in my hand. I'm putting the keys on the table. I was able to reduce how much I had to narrate, but months and months of doing this. I wish I could explain what it's like to be hungry and cold and have to go to the bathroom, and also the idea of getting up seems impossible. Being disappointed in yourself for the texts or calls you don't respond to, or all the cool ideas that come and go and nothing happens with it. And also, that medicine doesn't make you more hyper. It can make you finally sleep because your brain shuts off and you can sleep. When I first started taking medicine, I slept so much because I was so sleep deprived. Sometimes, when I wake up early and can't go back to sleep, I'll take my meds early because I know my brain with shut up. Ever seen a movie or TV show where there is a scene where one person is talking at another to annoy them or because they are being annoyed? That ends up being my brain keeping me awake. Mediation never worked for me before medicine because of how much I was thinking. I am absolutely dying to do the thing. I want to do the thing more than you want me to do the thing. Not having done the thing is ruining every minute I spend not doing the thing. But I can't do the thing right now. I once saw an excellent explanation of ADHD paralysis on a YT video. A guy held up a pen, one of those ones that has multiple switches that each attaches to a different colored pen head. He explained that someone without ADHD is able to pull down one pen head at a time and use it as they are supposed to. That is their focus. A person with ADHD is not able to use only one pen head at a time. Everything happens at once, at the same volume, at the same priority, in an ADHD brain. It is like trying to trigger every single pen head come out of the hole at once, but if you do that, they all get in the way and block each other. Thus, not a single one is able to fit through the hole. The pen can't be used. Never have I felt more understood in that regard than after seeing that video. That is literally exactly what it's like. ADHD has an incredible body of research going back to the 1950s. It's most definitely not a made-up condition or a case of kids being bad. It's not a conspiracy theory where teachers or parents or doctors or big pharma are wanting to put kids on drugs to keep them in line. Fundamentally, ADHD is a dopamine and epinephrine deficiency. Those two hormones regulate emotion and the feeling of satisfaction and joy you get when you are actively engaged with something. Where normal people can hold attention to things and stay on task, our brains get bored, and we feel an instinctual need to keep searching for things to scratch that itch. And that search isn't sequential, it's parallel. We'll juggle 5 different distinct thoughts at once. Imagine trying to read a book while 5 different TVs are on different channels at max volume. When we are put on stimulants, we are basically getting those levels back to your normal baseline. So, counterintuitively, we often find such meds as calming and quieting because we don't have to exhaust ourselves constantly fighting our wandering minds. One of our biggest problems isn't being too active, it's a perceived lack of action. We suffer from executive dysfunction, the decision paralysis trying to sort through the competing thoughts. Once we manage to get started, we can be okay, but transitions between tasks are incredibly hard, especially when interrupted. The counterpoint of this is hyperfocus. When we finally get into something that interests us for better or worse, we really dig into it and obsess on it at the expense of everything else. There are some benefits from it though. We get really good at pattern recognition and making quick reads on people. We have an often uncanny ability to tell you right away who the bad guy in a movie is, or what a throwaway line 90 minutes ago was going to end up being key to the plot of a story. In social situations, we are often great judges of character. ADHDers tend to travel in groups because we inevitably seek each other out, along with Often, autistic and LGBT people who also deal with feeling misunderstood and constantly stressed. We seem to also be disproportionately creative and imaginative, which is why so many artists, actors, and writers have ADHD. Professionally, if we can find jobs that are varied enough to keep us from burning out, we can excel at seeing the whole board and anticipating issues and outcomes long before others. Thank you for watching. Write comments, put likes. Do not forget to watch other videos.